I'm here to tell you.
Flash hooks the leg.
That's it.
Hey, this is Toxic Ring Scandal featuring TBK, the Turnbuckle King. We are at it again. We are talking about what was the unknown at SummerSlam 1988. We're here. We're going to talk about it, guys. These are facts behind the inaugural SummerSlam and stuff that we may or may have not known about the inaugural SummerSlam that happened in 1988. The original SummerSlam happened on WWF at the time, August 29th, 1988. So this is a very, very important SummerSlam. And there's some stuff that that may or may have happened or were not or was supposed to happen, but it didn't. So let's keep that in mind. Let's talk about it. As usual, let's air the dirty laundry. So yeah, we're gonna definitely air the dirty laundry tonight. This is gonna be a good one. You don't want to miss this one. Definitely something we're gonna tune into, and there's a whole bunch of stuff that was not known. Now, like I said, this was the inaugural SummerSlam. We know that this SummerSlam was the first ever SummerSlam. It was the last four, and I mean the big four, which was Royal Rumble, WrestleMania, Survivor Series. This was the last event that was created by Vince McMahon. So this was definitely something special, something that's going to happen as we see today at the summertime of the year. So this happens every summer, a SummerSlam, and it's to celebrate the summertime. But other than that, though, guys, we are definitely going to get in. Let's see who came to live before we begin. Figure 4 TV, salute to you. Appreciate you coming out as always. We're definitely going to dive into this one. This is so monumental of what's going on in this particular event. So we something that, man, there's so much to say about this one, but it's going to be definitely interesting to discuss. Now, this was, like I said, this was in New York City, New York, Madison Square Garden, and the whole tagline was the whole Mega Powers versus the Mega Bucks, Jesse Ventura. Very, very special event. We know that's what the inaugural SummerSlam was about. We know that there was many, many moments here at this particular SummerSlam, but it was crazy of all the stuff that happened at SummerSlam. Crazy stuff happened at SummerSlam. We know that, like I said, this will all not have happened if it wasn't the person behind it, which is Vince McMahon himself. You gotta give him credit for that. I know people have their reservations about Vince McMahon, of how he does business and why he did business a certain way, but we can't take nothing away from him. He still created SummerSlam. So we got to give that to Vince. So give him his credit. Like I said, this was a very, very changing event, inaugural, but definitely a game changer, because SummerSlam, we know SummerSlam for its events. We know it's known for having the big names that was at the event, such as, Hulk Hogan and Macho Man Ray Savage, Ted DiBiase, the $1 Million Man, Andre the Giant, Virgil. All these names are great. That was at the inaugural SummerSlam, but there's one particular name that was supposed to arrive at SummerSlam. One particular name. If you guys don't know, another big name, multiple time former or current champion at the time. Yes. Ric Flair. Woo! He was supposed to be at the inaugural SummerSlam. I heard that he was having a fallout with JCP, Jim Crockett Promotions, and he wanted out. He was approached by Vince McMahon. He was supposed to debut at SummerSlam 1988 pay-per-view. He was supposed to show up, but he didn't. And what's crazy is he felt like he didn't want to do that because he felt obligated to JCP, everything they'd done for him. And also, previously, years prior, there was an offer from Vince to for Harley Race to join. He said no. I'll get more to that as well. But because Ric Flair saw what Harley Race did, he felt indebted to, JCP, Jim Crockett Promotions, NWA, and how it's going. Ric Flair unfortunately turned it down. But we were supposed to see him at SummerSlam 1988, and we did not see Ric Flair. He didn't show up. Now, however, he did show up years later. He did show up a few years later. We understand that part. But um, he's supposed to show up later. He did show up later, but the thing about it is, it would be a decision that Ric Flair would regret. Because remember he had that whole issue with the big gold belt, the deposit, everything. That's how he appeared on WWF at the time television with the WCW NWA World Title. We got to keep that in mind. He did show up on TV with that title. So we got to keep that in mind as well. Now, because he did show up years later, even though he still has a successful career, he became WWE champion. He still wish he would have showed up sooner. And in fact, not only Ric Flair supposed to show up at SummerSlam 1988, he was supposed to be in this segment here where we see Jack saw him, Jim Duggan, Hall of Famer, supposed to be him, supposed to be Ric Flair there, but it wasn't. So there's definitely some history here. Yep, Figure 4T, that was definitely pushing the envelope on this pay-per-view. Yes, Vince signed Arn and Tully the Brainbusters, and Jim Hurt the Turd. Yes, Jim Hurt the Turd is the guy Ric Flair had the issue with the $25,000 deposit over the Big Gold Belt, and Jim Hurt was a very big, if not the main reason why Ric Flair left WCW to go over to WWE or WWF at the time. But this is crazy. Ric Flair was supposed to show up at SummerSlam '88, but he didn't. And there's so more to talk about this story. There's only so much I can say. There is proof behind this. CeeLo Myers, salute. Welcome, man. Appreciate you coming out. But yeah, this is something that needs to be talked about. As we approach SummerSlam, which will be a week from Saturday, we go through all the years of SummerSlam. I think exactly 36 years. We're into 36 years of SummerSlam, and we're going to talk about the very first SummerSlam. So there's going to be definitely more detail about it. There's going to be interviews about it. We're going to cover it. And we're going to cover a Pacific channel that talks about it. We got a good YouTuber here, and we see him in the chat, Figure 4 TV. He actually covered this situation of the whole story behind the inaugural SummerSlam in 1988. We'll see what he has to say, and then I'll react to him. Salute to Figure 4 TV. Appreciate him allowing me to react to his content that he made about this, because this was definitely something that we did not know. So actually, we're gonna get to it now. And also, before we get into the video, new tournament here, guys. Something I've been talking about. You guys cash your votes in every day. There will be a vote. So which SummerSlam was better on Toss the Rain Scandal and Red Carpet Rain. So let's keep that in mind. You guys cast your votes. As after tomorrow, the first round will be done, and then I'll tally up the results, and I will make a video about it on both channels. So, like I said, cast your votes in for the tournament. One side will be on the Red Carpet Rain side, other side Toss the Rain Scandal. And then we will all merge together. So cast your votes in. The best SummerSlam of all time. What's the best SummerSlam event of all time? Hacksaw was a feeling. It makes sure sense now. Yeah, do. Kid Grebo won. Flair versus Hogan and Warrior versus Sting would have been lit in '88. Yeah, would have been definitely. Of course, it didn't go down that way. But we'll get more into what happened with this whole situation here. Why didn't we get this whole SummerSlam? Why was there no SummerSlam at all? So let's talk about it, guys. And also, let's get the likes up. Let's talk about it. We'll react to we'll actually talk to see what the content is about it. Because I know this is called SummerSlam, but it's more like SummerSham. SummerSham. Hold the phone. We got a super chat. Figure 4 TV 4.99. Salute to you in chat. I appreciate that. You won't yeet and open mic combo. Got you. Appreciate you send a super chat. So he wants yeet. Is there any particular order or don't matter? We'll start out with open mics. That's what you normally get.
Who the hell told you tonight was open mic night, bitch?
Yeet. So yes, thank you. Yep, Summer Scam. That's another one. Summer Sham or Summer Scam. Yeah, but let's get into the whole video. Let's do that. And we're going to see the whole details behind Summer Scam or Summer Scam or Summer Sham, however they want to put it. Let's get into it.
88. The cash-strapped Crockett was looking to sell the deed before the house became unsalvageable. By this time, former Georgia stockholder and McMahon confidant Jim Barnett was working for JCP, having been pushed out of the WWF when Vince learned he still kept in touch with Crockett. Barnett had brokered the 1985 sale of the TBS time slot from McMahon to Crockett and was about to help Jim Jr. with another favorable deal. He asked Crockett if he'd be interested in selling the promotion to the man that owned the station, Ted Turner himself. Turner's deeper pockets would all but ensure the livelihood of what was soon to be formally known as Jim Crockett Promotions. However, there was a major caveat that Turner insisted on in order to complete the purchase, and it involved the reigning NWA World Heavyweight Champion.
Salute, wrestling friends. Today, we're going to talk about our first ever SummerSlam, guys. The biggest party of the summer, with it being 2 weeks away from the 2024 SummerSlam event, the PLE. We're going to talk about the very first one, guys. So you got to understand, there's some things you might not know. And if you look at it, SummerSlam, even the first SummerSlam, is riddled and a lot of backstage politics. So we're going to talk about it all from A to B, how it all came about, guys. Keep in mind, SummerSlam is the last of the big four. SummerSlam was created the last of the big fours, guys. So SummerSlam is that. And I mean, that's that bridge that get us from Mania to Survivor Series. Let's get it.
Ric Flair had to be part of this enterprise if Turner was going to assume ownership, which sounds like a no-brainer. He was the biggest star and most dynamic performer on Crockett's team, plus he had the belt and everything. In 1988, however, Flair came very close to making a jump that would have drastically altered professional wrestling history as we all know it. The Crockett power structure had become divided. Jim and Dusty Rhodes took one side, while Jim's siblings, including announcer David and cameraman Jackie, were opposed to how extravagantly things were being run. Also at odds with Jim Crockett Jr. were Flair's fellow horsemen, Arn and Tully Blanchard. The two felt they'd been underpaid for far too long, despite all the heavy lifting they'd done for the organization. By the end of summer, Anderson and Blanchard dropped the NWA World Tag Team titles to the Midnight Express before starting with the WWF a month later as the Brainbusters, managed by Heenan. As for Flair, when word reached McMahon that Anderson and Blanchard were having a spat with Crockett, the WWF honcho contacted the Nature Boy, straight up asking him if he wanted to come to New York. Literally New York. While the offer was being mulled over, a tentative plan was in place for Flair to make his debut in August at Madison Square Garden as part of the WWF's latest pay-per-view offering. For the NWA World Champion to jump to the WWF while the Alliance's strongest surviving territory appeared to be withering to an inevitable death, it would have given McMahon the checkmate he'd sought for some 5 years. He'd have total control of the board. But Flair had doubts. Yes, his relationships with Crockett and Dusty were agonizingly strained, and sure, Arn and Tully were headed out of the door, but
now I'm gonna pause it here. This is I see this happen not just in wrestling but in life. If you're having doubts of being with a company, organization, or faction, whatever the case may be, if you really don't want to be there anymore, it's best to just go with your first gut and just go. And I think seeing this back now, credit to Cultaholic and Figure 4 TV, I think Ric Flair, he did make a mistake. He should have left sooner. I mean, after all, he did end up showing up on WWE TV 3 years later with the WCW belt on WWE TV. Let's not forget about that. So I think he should have just left. That's his first mistake. Because he ended, like I said, even though he did the job for Vince on, and did everything, and he was well taken care of by Vince, I'm not doubting that at all. He still should have left because he had doubts. This was back in 1988. So I think he should have just left. I really think he should have just left because he would have felt better about it. Because had he left sooner, he wouldn't got to the big debacle over the 25 grand deposit that's been discussed on his channel and Red Carpet Ring. And he wouldn't got to that situation and he wouldn't left, on bad terms like he did. So that's his mistake. That's the only thing that I see from this angle. He should definitely came on there and not do that. That's the big issue I saw. He shouldn't have stayed there. He should have just left. If he felt that way, unless they was holding him hostage or he was threatened or they had a bounty on his head or something, unless it was under those circumstances, I think he should have just left. I think he made a mistake staying there because he pretty much overstayed his welcome. So that's the only issue I see here with that. I think he should never did that because he did that and end up make the big mistake. I mean, there's no other way putting it, guys. That's how it went down with Ric Flair. And we know Ric Flair, let's be honest. Ric Flair ain't no loyal dude, no way. Let's be honest. Ric Flair's not a loyal guy. Ric Flair's going to do what's best for him. He going to do what's best for business. So if he was going to do a snake move like that, like he did anyway, he should just left before. He should never stayed like he did. And I think he made a huge mistake by doing that. I think he ended up coming back to bite him. So, like I said, Pete, I know Ric Flair thinking, oh man, it's going to be low down, it's going to be bogus if I leave the way I did and all that, blah, blah, blah. I don't want to make, Jim Crockett Promotions look bad. I don't want to make WCW look bad and, all that and so on and so forth. But the fact of the matter is, Ric Flair, you end up doing like that anyway. Look what you did 3 years later. What was the difference between you having that WCW title on WWE TV and leaving Jim Crockett Promotions for SummerSlam? It's the same result. You was a backstabber regardless. If you care people's gonna look at you that way, they're gonna look at you that way regardless. But I understand he had to do for him. I think he should just left then. That's my opinion on that. Should just bounced. Should have left when Arn left. Exactly. But remember, Figure Four said, remember, Turner would have never brought the company without Flair. So Vince would have won big time. Exactly. You end up doing them dirty anyway. There's no other way around it. You had the WCW title on WTV. You think that company was very fond of what you did when you did that 3 years later? It's actually worse than you just leaving in 1988. You would have took the title on television, and you could just left. You would show up at SummerSlam. We would have got you at SummerSlam. This was more damaging than seeing this. So I wouldn't say Ric Flair made a mistake on that. He already had aspirations of leaving. He should have just left. That's all I'm saying. But let's continue on with this whole interview for what cover Hall of credit to them and Figure 4 TV for covering it. Let's continue on.
Flair also felt duty-bound to the National Wrestling Alliance as its champion. Harley Race spurned a generous offer from Vince to screw the NWA over 5 years earlier, and Flair found himself in a similar spot, not wanting to let down the people who were counting on him. And as mentioned, Flair had to be on board as a condition of Turner's purchase. If Flair left, there'd be no sale, and so many of Flair...
That's what I'm talking about. He felt obligated. He felt that pretty much handcuffed to them because they did so much for him. That's why he left, but he wasn't happy about it. He ended up leaving anyway. Now, I know he was happy due to creative changes and who was in charge and all that, but if you had left sooner, you wouldn't have to deal with it in the first place. So that's all I'm saying. But let's continue on.
As longtime friends and colleagues would all be out of work. The target date for the intended WWF debut came and went, with Flair still carrying the Crockett flag. That autumn, it became the Turner flag. On October 11th, World Championship Wrestling was formed as the catch-all group for the JCP acquisitions. Come November 2nd, the sale was finalized, and World Champion Flair now worked for billionaire Ted. Flair would later express regret for not leaving at the time. As he wrote, "Out of some kind of misguided loyalty, I missed an opportunity to go to the World Wrestling Federation." Regarding that New York card that Flair would have debuted at, it just so happened to mark the completion of what we know today as the Big Four. SummerSlam premiered from the Garden's hallowed halls on Monday, August 29th, 1988. A capacity crowd of 20,000 were on hand to witness what would become a necessary link between the all-important WrestleMania and the much more chill Survivor Series. And as was the case with Survivor Series and the Rumble, SummerSlam's creation was another thumb to an already ailing Crockett's eye. McMahon had drawn up a deal for the pay-per-view providers that gave him an exclusivity window, meaning nobody could run a wrestling pay-per-view 30 days before or after one of his events. This meant that with SummerSlam on the books, a planned JCP pay-per-view for September got shelved entirely. SummerSlam's 400,000 pay-per-view buys were equal to what WrestleMania 3 did a year and a half earlier, and in a reasonable ballpark to Mania 4. As a secondary card, SummerSlam seemed to have lasting power. While the card wasn't anything too special, the big IC title change and the memorable ending justified the first SummerSlam's existence.
It only goes to show, squad, that Vince McMahon was ruthless in trying to take over the territories. And again, yeah, we just did a video, so don't forget to check out that video on Starrcade 1, where Vince tried to get it and try to pay Harley Race to come bring the title over. So again, how many of y'all knew that he tried that same thing with Ric Flair? And he was going to roll Ric Flair out for this inaugural SummerSlam, guys. So now that we got through the politics, let's get down to the actual show.
Let's hold it right there. We get into more politics. Vince McMahon, you're a snake, Vince McMahon. You're really a snake, man. They say you're an evil genius. Now I know what they mean. You get one of these, Vince.
You just made the list.
Now I understand why so many wrestlers had so much animosity for Vince McMahon. Why they couldn't stand it? Because he's a slime ball. But usually the big tycoons gotta be slime balls, get where they at. And like I said before, I meant what I said earlier. Pro wrestling is just like the music industry. Putting blocks, putting holes, preventing people from running pay-per-views 30 days before your event and 30 days after. Man, you no different than those Columbia Records, Sony Records, Warner Brother Record guys. You no different. Just different industries, same agenda. Different industries, same agenda. Be a slime, get over. Be a slime, get over. Screw people, get over. Slime people, rinse and repeat. I mean, I've never been a professional wrestler nor a musician, music artist, but y'all do the same slime ball stuff. All of you. And then it's not just the Vince McMahons of the world. It's not just the Ted Turners, or you could say the Jim Crockett's, or the Jim Hurd with the turd. It's a lot of them. We could go back to even more than that, deeper. You got the Clive Davis. You got the all those guys. It's just numb, but you guys are slime, man. But anyway, that's what they got to do. Dang, this is not about the music industry. It's about the wrestling industry. Let's get back to what Figure 4 TV was saying. And salute to him. Check out his channel. He got great Golden Age wrestling content on there. He actually was part of the reason, the inspiration behind his stream tonight. So much credit to him. Let's continue on.
All right, let's get down to the actual show. And as we go over the matches, I'll give you the actual breakdown on what was going on behind the scenes, guys. So keep in mind, the first SummerSlam, Madison Square Garden, that's my hometown, guys. I did not attend that show, but I did watch this show on TV, pay-per-view, at my grandma's house, guys. So I was watching in front of that TV. Back in those days, we had floor mount TVs. We didn't have all these flat screens. We had the floor mount TV. So me and my little brother right in front of the TV like this, watching it. You know what I mean? Watching it unfold, guys. So the first match on the card was Bad News Brown versus Ken Patera, guys. And this was a muscle match. This is a muscle match, the tough guy match. Ken Patera was on the downside of his career. Bad News Brown, he was on the upside of his career. Keep in mind, Bad News Brown trained with the late great Stu Hart and the Dungeon. He was with them Hart brothers. All right. So remember, keep that in mind. Bad News Brown and the Harts are like brothers. He's the Black Heart. He's the Black Heart. You know what I mean? That match, nothing really, no politics involved and behind the scenes with that match. The next match, guys, Ravishing Rick Rude versus the Junkyard Dog. Now that match, Bad News Brown beat Ken Patera. But now, Ravishing Rick Rude, he defeated Junkyard Dog. And this was a changing of the guard. You know, WWE at the time, they were getting rid of the old 70s and 80s, the early 80s stars. And they were getting rid of them. They were getting rid of them for the newer, you know what I mean, early 90s, late 80s, the ushering in a new guard. And what made Ravishing Rick Rude character a little bit different from any other character up until that point is because WWF wasn't being raunchy. It wasn't being risque. You know what I mean? This character was one of the first characters to, you remember Val Venus, guys? Y'all know, how many of y'all know Val Venus? Hello, got his character from. He got it from Ravishing Rick Rude. And Ravishing Rick Rude used to push the envelope. In fact, this match was a tie-in match because if you ask me, he should have fought Jake the Snake because during this match, Jake the Snake interfered. Jake the Snake interfered because Ravishing Rick Rude had Jake the Snake's wife face on his tights. Guys, he had his, so that's how they was pushing the envelope. And now that up until this pay-per-view, and you'll see later on in our main event what I mean by pushing the envelope. But this was the start of a somewhat attitude era in the 80s, guys. All right, so keep that in mind. Again, Ravishing Rick Rude defeated Junkyard Dog, the disqualification because Jake the Snake interfered. You know what I mean? Next match, guys, the Powers of Pain. That's the Barbarian and the Warlord. These are the knockoff Road Warriors. Now, Guys, Vince McMahon tried hard. He tried hard and hard to get the NWA Tag Team Champions, the Road Warriors, over in his brand. But he couldn't secure them. He couldn't give them guaranteed contracts. The Road Warriors and Ric Flair, I think Dusty Rhodes, were probably the first three to get guaranteed contracts messing with the NWA. Vince McMahon didn't have guaranteed contracts, so he had to try to reinvent certain characters. This is why we ended up with that Akeem, the American Dream, the African Dream, because he wanted Dusty. He wanted the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes, but he couldn't get him. So he got Akeem coming out doing all this, trying to move and jive like Dusty Rhodes. So he did the same thing with the Road Warriors. He first tried with Axe and Smash Demolition, but just because you put paint on people's face, they don't look nothing like the Road Warriors. But now this Powers of Pain, they looked like the Road Warriors, bro. Barbarian, you know what I mean, and the Warlord looked like Hulk and Animal. I'm not even gonna hold you. All they needed was the spikes, and you would have been like, oh snap. But yeah, so of course they defeated the Bolsheviks. You know what I mean, guys? The on Foreign Hill tag team. And the Bolsheviks, they always drew good heat because they'll go to the ring and they'll sing another country's national anthem. You know what I mean? They'll sing Russia's national anthem. So that was an obvious one. Send the crowd home happy, beat up the Foreign Hill. You know what I mean? Roll out your new version of the Road Warriors. All right. Then we go into our WWF Intercontinental Championship match, guys. Yes.
So now, right off the bat, guys, you will be looking at this like, but hold on, I thought he fought the Ultimate Warrior. And you right, guys, but this is where the backstage politics come in. So Brutus the Barber Beefcake, he was written out and off of television because they linked him up with Ron Bass, and Ron Bass had went upside his forehead with his little spur. So they wrote Brutus the Barber Beefcake off of television. That's why Honky had no opponent, and they did the whole surprise opponent angle with the Warrior.
And this match lasted about 40 seconds.
He's absolutely right. The original card, yes, was the Barber versus Honky Tonk Man. It ended up becoming the Ultimate Warrior. He ended up becoming Intercontinental Champion and also ending the longest reign Intercontinental Championship run of Mr. Honky Tonk Man at 454 days. Now, what's crazy about that is, guys, there is a Honky Tonk even talked about this. I talked about this. This was covered on my other channel, Red Carpet Rain. You know, it got pulled down, but we are able to do a little magic there. And we're going to also have it pulled up here. And Honky Tonk Man had an interview with Sean Oliver, the same guy you see that's the co-host of Kevin Nash's podcast, Click This. He talks about how he won the Intercontinental Championship in the first place. And this is the same Intercontinental Championship run, his only run, that he lost to Warrior at SummerSlam 1988. So let's listen. Let's see what Mr. Honky Tonk Man had to say regarding this. You guys get the lights up while we in the locker room.
Of course. Listen.
You Honky Tonk Man, you pack your shit and go like Strombo. You're not happy? Get out of here. I mean.
And yes, he was right. He just won a championship due to politicking from Hulk Hogan. And that's how he got championship run, but it was ultimately ended by the Ultimate Warrior himself. So yes, that is how he won a title, and that's how he lost it so quickly, because he did the work, he did what he had to do. So that's how Honky Tonk Man won the title, if you guys didn't know. And that's how, and he also lost it quick too, because his time was up. He wasn't supposed to hold the belt, especially for that long period of time. So he did what he had to do. But let's return to our Figure 4 TV. See what you guys say about this event of SummerSlam 88. And also, this is the match here where he did lose the belt. You guys remember this as well.
Right now, brother, we can get a new champion. I'm here to tell you. Hooks the leg.
That was the actual match of SummerSlam 88 between Honky Tonk Man and the Ultimate Warrior for the Intercontinental Championship that ended literally 20-some seconds. And that was Honky Tonk Man talking about on Supercard, credit to them, of how he won the championship. Let's continue on to see what Figure 4 TV got to say.
Ultimate Warrior came to the ring, whoop, 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 whoop. And next thing you know, he was the Intercontinental Champion. Now, guys, prior, I want to say a year or 6 months prior to this, right? A year prior to this, Honky Tonk Man was asked to drop the Intercontinental title to the Macho Man around the time when they had that whole feud on Saturday Night Live where Honky pushed Elizabeth and hit Macho with the guitar. That he was asked to drop the title the same night that Andre and the Twin Referee went down. Remember, Andre and Hogan fought in the rematch, and earlier that night, Macho and Honky Tonk Man, they battled to a disqualification. Honky didn't drop the title to the Macho Man because, little do you know, at that Saturday Night Live event, Honky Tonk Man was not under contract, but he had the Intercontinental title in his possession. And he had a waiting Jack Crockett on the phone. So Vince McMahon said, no, you're going to stay. He gave Honky some extra cash to stay. He also told Honky, you can keep the title, hold on to it. That's why Honky is one of the longest reigning Intercontinental champions of all time. A lot of you thought it's because he was just that good or he was just that good of a gimmick. No. Honky had Vince McMahon by the tail, and he
spoken and spun like a true politician. I mean,
didn't execute it because of the loyalty and because of what Vince did for him. You know what I mean? But Honky let him know, look, Zach Crockett told me that if I want to do business with him, I need not to lose to the Macho Man in 50 seconds because it was going to be the same ending. They were going to have Macho Man come and destroy Honky Tonk Man in about 50 seconds and going out of there because Honky Tonk Man put his hands on this woman. So same story ending, but Honky did not go with it against Macho Man. That, in return, is what accidentally got Macho Man the world's title because now Honky Tonk Man kept the Intercontinental title, knowing that Hogan is going off to do movies and stuff. That allowed Macho, who should have been the Intercontinental champion, to win the world's title, but in overall, it screwed the $1 Million Man because the $1 Million Man was penciled in for that tournament win, but they had to change it up, and in return, they gave $1 Million Man his own title. I mean, the $1 Million type championship belt does look good, but I wouldn't have traded that for a world's heavyweight championship run. But that it is what it is. I told you. This is just the first SummerSlam, guys. And if you go back in the history of SummerSlams, you will see that it's riddled with backstage politics, from the one in Wembley, the one where the Warrior left and ran.
Hold that thought, Figure 4 TV. You are really saying some good stuff right there, man. Very good stuff. Now, he mentioned something right there, too. Now, he talks about Honky Tonk Man with his Intercontinental Championship run and why he wants to hold on. He held on to it longer. He didn't want to drop the belt sooner. He thought he should have it. And, of course, the whole situation with Jim Crockett trying to recruit him, and he kept the belt longer. Thing about it is, guys, Ted DiBiase got screwed in this whole endeavor, and it cost him a WWF Championship run, a run that he would never, ever get for his whole career. Despite his popularity, despite the $1 Million Championship, the one thing that eluded his name is being in the top greats, despite being Hall of Fame as well, is never win the WWE Championship. Yes, he won the title, but it was voided, and no, we already know the story. But you know what was crazy about it is the $1 Million Man himself. He has a podcast, and he talks about not winning the WWE Championship. And he talks about this on his podcast. I think it was a while back. Well, no, now his podcast on Title Match Wrestling. he does have a podcast, but he talks about this on Title Match Wrestling, and it's crazy because this man could have won. He had it all: the charisma, character, everything, except for the WWE Championship. That's the one thing he didn't have. That's one thing that eluded his name. So let's get to him right now because he kind of ties in as well. Let's get into Mr. Everybody Has a Price. Let's talk about the $1 Million Man. Let's see what he had to say about that.
WrestleMania 4. A lot of rumors behind the scenes that I guess Honky Tonk Man was wrestling Savage on was a Friday night special or something like that, and they wanted him to drop the belt, and he held the company up for the belt. And I don't know how true it is, but they promised you the title at WrestleMania 4, and basically Savage was really hot at Honky for not dropping the belt to him. And I guess they promised Savage if he went to the match with Honky and didn't shoot on him, they would give him the title at WrestleMania 4.
Yeah.
All right.
That's what I heard too.
All right.
And to add a little bit more to that, that is the whole reason that the $1 Million Belt was created. And I think that was created to pacify me. I was like, you're the $1 Million Man, why would you need the WWF title? You will just create your own.
Right.
But once again, the belt is a status symbol. The belt is a tool. The thing that draws money is the stories. It's the conflicts, and you can use the belts to enhance those conflicts and create what you want to create. That's all they're really good for. Once again, did I feel, well, it's eluded me again? Yeah, I did. But you know what? I am not somebody who I didn't park, at the office. I didn't call Vince every day. I didn't butter him up. I didn't. I'm just not. I don't kiss rear end. I never did. I never played the political game. Maybe it's to my detriment. Maybe things would have been different. I just always said, okay, I'm going to let my work speak for itself, and I'm going to do what's right. And I realize that it's a business. Of course, those things were rumored, and I didn't even hear about them until after the fact. But why beat a dead horse?
Right.
I mean, once it was over, it was a done deal. But yeah, I was told. I was told that I was going to get the belt for WrestleMania 4. And then the story I was told was, why would the $1 Million Man even care about that belt to create his own? Just like purchasing it,
right.
from Andre.
At WrestleMania 5, you wrestled Beefcake, and I think it was SummerSlam, you worked with Jimmy Snuka. Did you feel at the time your spot slipping a little bit?
Yeah, I wasn't real happy with that, and I didn't know why. I was like, come on, this thing should be stepping up,
right?
And the truth is, even Hulk said that. Even Hulk said, they've positioned you where, if just a little more, and I was just totally over the edge.
So that's Ted DiBiase on why he didn't win the WWE Championship. And it all ties it back to what I said. The reason I played this interview was because of Honky Tonk Man not want to drop the title. And it led Savage to become WWE Champion. but because Savage was supposed to get the Intercontinental Championship and Honky Tonk refused, they gave Randy Savage, because he was a bigger name, obviously, than Ted DiBiase, the World Championship that was supposed to originally go to Ted DiBiase. So, with this being said, we got one person blaming this whole situation. And yes, we can put it all on Vince McMahon. We can say it was him, but we really know that Honky Tonk Man, you played a role in this as well. You are not gonna be ignored about that. You know what you did, and you know that wasn't right, Honky Tonk Man. You cost this man a world championship run, but you know what you did at the end of the day. You know exactly what you did.
I didn't know that. You know what you did. I know what you're talking about. I fair and square. You know what you're a legend, man.
All right, let's get back to what Figure 4 TV was saying about SummerSlam 88.
Out of there, SummerSlam just not good. Yo, I guess it'd be hot. Everybody be bothered. It's the dead heat of the summer. So people ain't with Vince McMahon and his bull. Guys, all right. So let's move it right along. Of course, we know Ultimate Warrior won. That jump started his whole, his whole run towards becoming the world's heavyweight champion. Also, another note, guys, during negotiation, when Vince McMahon was trying to steal Ric Flair, he also saw Sting. Vince McMahon had his eye on Sting. So he created his own version of Sting. Remember, Surfer Sting was colorful. The Ultimate Warrior was colorful. The Rockers, Marty Jannetty and Shawn Michaels, were colorful, and they had streamers and they had exciting music. So he saw it. So Vince, and that's how Vince ran his program. So let's get to the next match, guys. Dino Bravo defeated Don Morocco. Another one of those, they're just trying to go younger, guys. Dino Bravo, Don Morocco, boom, out with the old and with the new type stuff. So Dino Bravo definitely defeated Don Morocco. Next, we have our WWF World's Tag Team Championship match. And again, I just told you about Demolition, Axe and Smash. They defeated the Hart Foundation with Jim the Anvil Neidhart and and Bret Hart to retain their titles. They were the champions, So the Hart Foundation was chasing. And this time the Hart Foundation switched. These two teams, they took turns. One year the Hart Foundation was the heel team chasing the good guys, and then when Mr. Fuji turned on Demolition ended up turning to the good guys, and the Hart Foundation was the bad guys, and it was just crazy. But this is back when they cherished tag team wrestling. Tag team wrestling meant something. That Intercontinental title meant something, guys. Next, we have Big Boss Man versus Coco Beware. This was another squash match. They were trying to build up the Big Boss Man, showing us this mean, bad police officer. So that was a squash match. Nothing too major there. The next match, guys, we had Jake the Snake Roberts defeating Hercules. This is another blow-off match. They had to blow. This was a few blow-off. Really, I told you it should have been Jake the Snake versus Ravishing Rude here, and then you could have put Hercules with Junkyard Dog, but for some reason they kept Rude and Jake separate to build the anticipation for their feud. So they was in separate matches here, guys. A match that I did not speak on yet, guys, is the British Bulldog Davey Boy Smith. This is the first match, guys, and I saved this because this British Bulldog Davey Boy Smith and Dynamite Kid versus the fabulous Rougeau brothers. That is Jacques Rougeau and Raymond Rougeau. So y'all know the Mountie. But before the Mountie became an individual, he was in a tag team called the Fabulous Rougeau brothers. And I know y'all know the story. And if you don't know the story, you can go on this channel. You can go back on this channel because we did the video where Dynamite Kid is the biggest bully in WWE history, but it do not pay to be a bully. Because this is where it started. That feud between the Mountie and Dynamite Kid started here. After this match, while they was in this match, good old Kurt Hennig was in the back playing around. And when they finished this match and the Rougeaus went to the back, they thought that Dynamite Kid did that because Dynamite Kid was known for doing the ribs. Dynamite Kid was known for doing the locker room bullying, so they just threw it on Dynamite Kid. I'm not gonna hold y'all with the story. If y'all saw the channel, if you follow the channel, then you already know the story. But that feud between the Mountie and Dynamite Kid started at SummerSlam, this SummerSlam, and it ended at Survivor Series. At Survivor Series, they was all in a tag match, and if you notice, the Rougeaus got eliminated first, and then 30 minutes later, after they had enough time to go hit the showers and get out the arena, 30 minutes later, the British Bulldogs got eliminated, and that was it. Vince ended up firing the British Bulldog and Dynamite Kid because he knew some type of retaliation was gonna occur. All right, guys. So do you see the amount of backstage? Vince is always busy at SummerSlam, guys. And last but not least, guys, we got the main event. And this was a good one, guys. This was the Mega Powers. That's Hulk Hogan and the Macho Man Randy Savage against Ted DiBiase, the $1 Million Man, and Andre the Giant, guys. So that was a good one. And Jesse, the Body Ventura, was the special guest referee. So we all knew, and we were always under the impression that $1 Million Man then paid this guy. $1 Million Man paid this guy off, so they're going to cheat. So again, like I told you in the beginning, the only thing that saved the Mega Powers was Elizabeth. Elizabeth jumped on that ring. She whipped off that skirt and got into her little bikini bottom. And boy, she distracted the bad guys. The good guys jumped on them and pinned them, and it was it. And that was the start of the pre-attitude era, if you want to call it, guys. But guys, if you get a chance, right, I want you to go to the description of this video. There is a Rumble link. Salute and courtesy to Red Carpet Ring, Toxic Ring Scandals. Courtesy of them, by way of them, there's a link in the description. If you would like to watch this whole event, the inaugural SummerSlam 88, you can go to in the description of this video and click and enjoy yourself, guys. Don't say I ain't never give you nothing, bro. All right, y'all. That's all I got for you for our inaugural SummerSlam.
All right, salute to you, Figure 4 TV. I appreciate that. And as he stated, if you want to check out the SummerSlam 1988 event, check on my Rumble for Red Carpet Ring. You could go type in SummerSlam 88, or you can go to Figure 4 TV where he talks about inaugural SummerSlam and click that link in the description. You can check the whole event there as we do a live watch along of that particular event. So definitely check that out. And it will be this event here. It will be SummerSlam 1988. But hold up, we're not done just yet, guys. We are not just done just yet. We got 2 more interviews that I do want to discuss. And what's crazy is these interviews are about important people that were described earlier in the stream, not just by Figure 4 TV, but myself as well. I talked about them earlier of these people that were on the stream. And what's crazy about it is this was a potential game-changing event that could have went down. And the thing about it is it didn't go down for whatever reason. But I talked about it, and Figure 4 TV talked about it, and even Cultaholic talked about it. But it's best if we hear from the man himself. Who am I talking about? There's only one man and only one man that talked about it. And yes, if you don't know, now you know. We are talking about him. I ain't talking about Carmelo Hayes. I'm talking about
be the man. You gotta beat the man.
We talking about Ric Flair. Ric Flair talks about this whole event, and he talks about what if he had joined the WWE back in 1988. He talks about this on his podcast, Ric Flair. Salute to him. Let's see what the Nature Boy Ric Flair has to say if he had joined the WWF at the time back in 88. How that went down. You guys like and subscribe, keep the notification bell on as you come in the locker room. We dropping knowledge here.
To know, besides Cena, what wrestlers did the most for charities?
Hulk.
Yeah.
Hulk was doing Make-A-Wish. God, back in the, I don't know whenever it started, but I can remember in the 90s, Hulk would do a Make-A-Wish every night. Every arena, everywhere.
Ronnie wants to know, Aaron at Ronnie Salts says, if you could turn back the clock and join the WWE at SummerSlam 88, as previously discussed, would you do it? And if yes, do you think we'd still get the iconic Rumble win at 92?
I would not have gone if I could turn back the clock. I'm glad I stayed. It all worked out. Looking back on it now, there's a lot of things I could have done differently.
That's Cap. Totally Cap.
But ultimately, I nothing's guaranteed. I don't know. I'm glad I stayed. All I knew back then was the Horsemen and having fun, and I don't know whether 92 would have taken place or not. It might have if I'd gotten over. Your buddy Bruce Prichard didn't think I did, so I don't know. Better ask Bruce that question.
Stefan Davies.
But I'm the first to admit it, so there you go.
Stefan wants to know, what was Ric Flair's first reaction walking into the Impact Zone when he...
All right, that's Ric Flair talking about if he had joined SummerSlam back in 1988, would he have saw him back in there? Does he said on his podcast, do he even regret not making the jump back in 1988 from Jim Crockett Promotions to WWE? He said he don't regret it. Glad he stayed. I don't believe him. I think it's cap. He wouldn't have left, like I said, 3 years later or 4 years later. He won the Rumble 92, but he was there in 91 with the big gold belt on TV. That's the case. We would never ever, as I stated earlier, we would never solve this. So that's cap, Ric Flair. Stop it, and stop it. Now, like I said, we're done with Ric Flair there. We have one more part of the interview. We're going to talk about Harley Race. If you remember, I mentioned him earlier too. And remember, he was approached by Vince McMahon years earlier, approximately 5 years earlier in 1983, of him leaving Jim Crockett Promotions and making a jump come to WWE. Respectfully, Harley Race declined, and he is learned to be a loyal man and having integrity. And Figure 4 TV, who I just reacted to, he actually talked about this video as well. That's the video he was referring to at the beginning of that video. He was talking about how Harley Race was offered a similar offer to Ric Flair, but he declined respectfully. But let's go on and let's see what Harley Race had to say about that, because he actually talks about this whole thing himself of what happened when Vince McMahon offered him to come to WWE. And remember, the reason you see Starrcade in the background, Vince McMahon wanted Harley Race to abandon Starrcade. Don't show up for that event and come join the WWE back in 83. But we're going to listen to see, rest in peace to Harley Race, why he chose not to do it. What made him want to say no? I know he's loyal, but we want to see what he got to say. So let's tune in. Let's see what he got to say. And this will be the last interview I cover for the locker room tonight. We're going to leave the lockers after this. So let's continue on. We got to know. And yes, this is very, very interesting. So he pretty much pulled one of these.
No, brother, doesn't work for me right now.
But let's see what he meant by that.
An early, unexpected bang as recent WWE NXT Cruiserweight Champion Lio Rush will be joining us live Thursday, November the 5th, here at MWF Studios in downtown Melrose, Massachusetts, the zip code of champions 02176. A lot has been said about Lio while he was with WWE. A lot has been said about Lio since he was released by WWE during the coronavirus outbreak in April. We'll be taping a special Wrestling Insider Rush outlet, Leo Special. Wrestling.com.
Simulcast on closed circuit around the South. What happened a few days before Starrcade 83 when the phone rang and you had Vince McMahon Jr. on the other end of the line with you as the NWA World Champion ready to defend a couple of days later at the NWA's Masterpiece event?
Then you have to make a decision.
So he flew you up to New York or Connecticut.
But you got to make that decision for yourself, and you can't throw it to each. You know what I mean? Once it's gone, it's gone. Once it's gone and you got no respect for yourself or anybody else got any respect for you, it's still gone, and you might as well flush yourself down the toilet. I couldn't do that to an organization that had been behind me 8 different trips at it. Been everywhere in the free world. I just couldn't do that. Maybe I was the dumbest guy in the world, but I decided that I would get out of it with the respect that I had already, and not get out of it and then have to try to build that respect back up
again. Right.
And I think by doing it the way I did, that's what eventually allowed Vince to bring me into New York as the king.
Looking back on it now, we had Vince McMahon offering you hundreds of thousands of dollars to leave there as NWA champion, go to Madison Square Garden with the belt itself. Still wouldn't change your decision. You'd still go with how you went.
Again, it gets back to, I guess, stubbornness or stupidness or whatever. But once any of that stuff's done, you've got to be able to live with you. And I don't think I've made too many horrible decisions about Harley Race. And by turning that down and walking away from it, opened the door for me to go up there a few years later as the king of the ring.
How did he, a man at this point that was picking up every top talent that he could get his hands on, how did he initially react when you refused the offer to jump ship?
Well, I can't mind read people. I don't imagine he was the least bit happy about it. But over the whole thing, I think it gave him a lot more respect for me as a person, not in the ring, but just as a person.
He knew he could trust you.
He knew that he could trust me, and he knew that I was not, if we were doing this with his organization, I was not going to double cross the people that had put all this trust in me.
When you get on the flight to go back to Charlotte, are you angry when you show up at the event, thinking about, like, this could be just about a year's salary to me that I just left on the table up in New York. Here I am going to Charlotte to drop the title, and then you took a long vacation at that point to try and get everything together again.
I actually kind of, after the talk up there and then going back, I had to go home first and talk to the partners I had in the Kansas City area, and then go to North Carolina. But in that transaction, I never realized how much respect I had actually got for doing it the way I done it until I walked back out of the ring in North Carolina and they were raising Flair's hand.
Did the boys at that point know what was going on, or was it still kind of unspoken?
All right. That is Harley Race, the late great Harley Race, talking about why he didn't join WWE or WWF at the time back in '83. He talked about it was too much integrity he had. He said that he knew when he joined WWE later on as Harley Race. King Race or King Harley. that he knew Vince could trust because he had loyalty to him. Basically, whatever company he was tied to, he was going to have loyalty. He wouldn't just leave him high and dry like Vince was trying to have him do. And he said he felt like he owed it to his partners. He was just an old school guy about loyalty. So much respect to Harley Race on that. And the thing about it is, the reason we covered, I know this was about SummerSlam 88, but all this stuff ties into SummerSlam 88. And it ties in how all these situations cause things to change around. Now, Ric Flair, we talked about him initially when he was offered to come to WWF. At the time, he said no because he was a part of the Jim Crockett deal, in which Ted Turner would only purchase the company if Ric Flair was a part of it. So it's politics in that. And he ended, even though he joined a few years later with the Big Old Bell on WWE, he did. And then we have Honky Tonk Man. Honky Tonk Man was the Intercontinental Champion in SummerSlam 88, which he lost to Ultimate Warrior. But since he did not want to drop the belt to Randy Savage prior, Randy Savage was ahead, slated to go win the World Championship, a World Championship that was originally scheduled for the $1 Million Man. And he talked about that. And because of Honky Tonk Man keeping the title, and of course, even though he was offered to join Jim Crockett, he kept on to the belt longer. But in his process, he did end up compromising $1 Million Man into getting a World Championship run, thus creating $1 Million Man to create his own championship, which was the $1 Million Championship based off his character. And then later on, we talk about not just those two. We also talk about Harley Race, his loyalty, because Ric Flair also, because he turned down Vince in 88, he saw how Harley 5 years prior turned down Vince in 83. So that's another reason why Ric Flair wanted to stay, because he saw Harley Race had the loyalty. Because him and Harley Race, they were rivals. They was in the same company. So that all ties into SummerSlam 88, all these interviews of Honky Tonk Man, and of course Honky Tonk Man, we mentioned him as well. How he got the championship, again, due to politics. Hulk Hogan chose him, and he held to the championship. And he did what he could. He took advantage of his opportunity, and he had the longest run for many, many years, up until when Gunther recently broke the record this past year. At WrestleMania, it was ended at 666 days. Now, all this ties in SummerSlam 88. Honky Tonk Man, a part of SummerSlam. Ric Flair was supposedly a part of SummerSlam. $1 Million Man, he was in the main event, with Andre the Giant against him. And then we have the Mega Bucks versus the Mega Powers. Now, we see Randy Savage was the WWE champion at the time. Even though it was not online, it was a tag match. Had it not been for Honky Tonk Man and his politicking plan, the way he was doing the politics, it would have been $1 Million Man as champion, not Randy Savage. So remember, Randy Savage already held the WWE Championship previously. He already had one run with the belt. So I'm just telling you guys how I'm tying all these interviews that was reacted to into SummerSlam 88. How does that play a factor? And of course, Harley Race, now, he was not a part of SummerSlam 88. He was not on the card. That's true. He wasn't on the card. But, there is a but. He wasn't on the card. But, he could have been on the card. He could have been there sooner. He stayed out of loyalty. He did stay out of loyalty. And if that was today wrestlers, they would have made the jump. We would have saw Harley Race or anybody, they would have made a jump if it was referred to today. And because he didn't, he has loyalty and he has the utmost respect. Like he said in the interview, people he didn't think had the utmost respect for him, they did. And think about Harley Race, about him. Harley Race did join WWE later on. Now, he joined WWE after his run was over. He ended up coming, I believe, it wasn't long. It was a very short run. I think he was in WWE from 1986 to 1989. So when SummerSlam 88 was going on, he was a part of the company. He just was not on the card. So he was just an example of someone who would not have loyalty, would not make the jump. So that all plays a factor into SummerSlam 88. And that's all I have, you guys, regarding what was the unknown at SummerSlam 88. Much credit to Cuffaholic, much credit to Figure 4 TV, and of course, Title Match Wrestling, and Honky Tonk Man Supercard, and Ric Flair, his podcast, and Title Match Wrestling, everybody. These were very important pieces to SummerSlam 1988. What would have happened? We would have got Flair 88. So something to talk about. Deadman Inc. Gaming, salute to you. What's up? Salute to you. Welcome to the locker room. But yeah, that's all I have regarding the subject, guys. It was a very, very interesting facts. A lot of stuff I did not know about SummerSlam 88. A lot of stuff I took from Figure 4 TV and the interviews behind it too. But definitely something to check out. If you're checking out on a live chat, let me know what you think of these facts of SummerSlam 88 and also on the playback as well. Greatly appreciated. Soon to be able to pop up of Toss Ray Scandal, of wrestling content, of past content or present content. Check that out in the videos below. Please click those links there. Something interesting you want to check out. You don't want to miss out on it. You guys already know what it is. Until then, it's OUNT.